Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyra and I am here today to talk to you about how my tarot practice went in the month of October. So, October was a month. If you missed it, I did a super short little video about my journal for November. It's linked up above in the cards. And in it I talked about the fact that October was a month and that we're not doing so well. Suffice it to say, a lot happened in October, and there was just a lot. Can we really be surprised, given that my monthly card was the Five of Swords? Not so sure. I did not enjoy it. I do not recommend the Five of Swords as a monthly card, because, of course, I literally just went in and chose it on purpose. I'm being sarcastic, just in case you missed the memo. Anyways. So, boy, what a month. I thought first I'd talk to you about the things that I didn't do, because there's a lot more that I did than I didn't do. So down here I wrote down on my month in tarot spread, I wrote down the decks I wanted to use. I wrote down, I wanted to use the Spread Crafters Change Oracle. We'll talk about that. I wanted to use the Shadowscapes Oracle, or the Shadowscapes Tarot. So the Shadowscapes is no longer here in my collection. I did try using it. I was using it for an evening poll. It was nice. It just wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't getting my juices flowing. And so I ended up doing a this or that episode dedicated to the Shadowscapes. I'll link it up above in the cards. And decided to give it to my wife. She does like it. The Ganeshian Village, I love that deck. I didn't end up using it. That's okay. It's adorable and it's elephants. It's not going anywhere. The Illustrated Bestiary and Herbiary we'll come back to. Same with the Gentle Tarot. So really the only thing I didn't use the Ganeshian Village Tarot. I used all the rest in some capacity, and I tried the Shadowscapes and it didn't end up working. So that's that. Next, I think let's talk about the one-off things I did. So if you don't recall and you weren't here when I talked about it, my theme for the month of October was self-care, and it was definitely a needed theme. That was like what I was working with. And there were some things I did that I didn't end up finishing. So let's talk about those. First, my Tarot of Decans. Or my Tarot Decans. I used my Tarot of Transformation in my star codes. It's still in order, minus the cards I put it back at the back. I used this deck and to try and come up with, and I pulled out my Tarot Decans. There's a video of it. I'll link it up above in the cards. This deck is beautiful, and this is the one I put against the Shadowscapes because I realized they felt a very similar vibe. And so I was like, do I really need both? The answer was no. This deck is beautiful. And I used it for pulling out all the cards that correspond with the placements in my birth chart, which is what the Tarot Decan Wheel tells us, or the Decan Wheel in astrology tells us. And I did a whole spread. And I also talked about it in my After the Tarot, where I made a follow-up spread. And I also talked about it in my After the Tarot, where I made a follow-up spread to get me to finish the work. I didn't end up doing it. I ended up putting the cards away. And we'll come back to why that is. It's nothing about this deck. But there's a few things I did that this ended up happening with. And so let's finish telling you about those, and then we'll come back to that. And I'll tell you the big thing I learned from it this month. So that's that. Another thing I did something big with is my Cosmovisions, which I didn't talk about. I've used this deck, and I've talked about it before plenty of times. I've used this deck for ancestor work. And it seems my time using this deck for ancestor work is done. So right towards the beginning of October, I was trying to create a large scale ancestral reading that would use this deck with its very special functions, because it's got the majors, it's got the minors, and then it takes the quartz and gives them their own suit. And it starts with the death card. So I created this whole thing, and I pulled a whole bunch of cards, and I created a spread. Here it is. And I did nothing. So that's another thing that I did not finish. As you can see, it was a whole big thing. I had these grand ideas, and it didn't go anywhere. That was the first big thing I did. And I also in that realized that this deck is no longer, it's been kind of replaced as my ancestor deck. I still love this deck. I'm still going to keep it. I think it's connected to other things, and I'm not quite sure what it is. It might even be connected to my goddess. That's a yes. It might even be connected to my goddess and work I'm going to do with her. But it occurred to me, this deck is built all around the idea of death and rebirth. And I'm going into a death card year. So I'm excited to spend some time with it and hopefully really learn the system and find the way it is for me in 2023. I'm quite excited about it. So that's another big thing I pulled but did not finish. So I did also use the Cosmovisions, just a little bit though. Oh, and I did use the Boo Tarot for my daily draws, just in case I forget to mention that later, but I did. The other big thing I attempted to do was a conversation with my shadow self based on an old video that Danny Mystic and Lisa both did. If I have enough cards left, I'll link it. And I don't know why I'm shuffling. And I thought to use my El Goliath. I adore this deck. I still don't know how to use it, but I adore this deck. There's something about it. It just hits me right in the emotions. And it occurred to me, I thought, wow, maybe I would use it with my Kim Kranz archetypes. And I actually was very surprised. Like, I knew the energy would work well, but I was quite surprised to see how well. Like, look at this. Look at the shadow self, the shadow. What are the chances? So there are more cards with this one that are, of course, very, much more colorful. But I was very pleasantly surprised to see how well these two go together. The Sacred Heart and the Lover, amazing. and how well they just go well. So I pulled that whole thing. It was like an 8-card spread, and I had it out, and it was a potent experience when I pulled it, but I didn't end up journaling anything about it. I didn't end up recording the cards, and I might have recorded them in my Book of Shadows. And I ended up putting it away. And it was this spread that gave me that final realization that I have to be a bit more realistic with myself and with how I try to practice tarot. Because what happens is I'm an extremely ambitious person. And there's nothing wrong with some good ambition. However, I forget in my ambition that I also have some very big mental health struggles and neurodivergence things. That means I crash a lot. So I realized when it comes to super big spreads, largely they end up being a no for me. And this has been something that has happened before. There was a time when I pulled a whole, like, a card for each chakra, and my plan was to, over time, come up with to over time interpret them and work through it one chakra at a time, and I never do that. But I have my year ahead spread, which I do every month, and I pull it at the beginning of the year. And so I realized I need some sort of external motivation. I need something to bring me back to it. I can't just say to myself, it is not realistic for me to just say, I'm going to pull a big spread and I'll just do it throughout time. When I do that, I lose motivation, and then I forget, and then it never happens. And then I just get mad and put the things away. So if I want to do a big spread, I need to come up with some sort of discerning scale, which I want to talk about in a different video. I want to come up with like a tarot metric that I can look at to ask myself, okay, when I have an idea of something I want to do for tarot, I can ask myself a couple questions to determine, is it a big tarot spread, to determine when I can do the thing I want to do. And if it's a realistic idea, because I'm not always, when it comes to big spreads, I either need to sit down and be able to do them all in one day, which I don't often have the time to do right now because my life is extremely hectic, hence the tanked mental health. Or it needs to be better regulated. Like my month ahead, my year ahead spread, which, by the way, it's November. Those are going to be opening. I will have space, and I do have space for new clients to join if they want to join with the calendar year. This is a service I offer every month, just like I do my monthly ones. It's one of my favorite services. It's my baby. I love it so much. You can check that out and stay tuned. My description box has a link for my website, and also stay tuned because I'm going to be sharing more details about that. But I'm very excited that it's almost the end of the year and I get to pull a new one. I'm super excited. Anyway, but I know that's monthly. That is part of my monthly process to get ready for the new month. I look to that card for a lot. It's a fully integrated thing. So that's a big spread that I'm using, and it can sit there, but it doesn't actually sit out. Right? So I take a picture of it and I reference it, and that's what I can do. But even my Mars return reading, here's my Mars return. I didn't finish interpreting it. I didn't. So I still am referencing it, but the point is I have to work on how I do my big spreads. And that was a very big lesson. I need to have it done in such a way that like I check in on it in a way that makes sense. Otherwise, I just won't come back to it. And that's what happens. So that was a big thing that happened. At the start of the month, what I was doing was I was doing my morning daily pull. And I was doing that with the Boo Tarot. And I did use this for every single day. I love this deck. I also use this in my monthly readings with my members, which was fabulous. And we did our first member D&D where we did Lost in the Boo Tarot. It was such a fun time. Oh my God. Listening to my wife make squeaky ghost voices. Oh, we laughed so hard. It was so much fun. And that's a thing that happens every quarter in my membership. So we'll do another D&D game in January. I'm extremely excited. It was so much fun. So the Boo Tarot gets lots of love and has a solid place in my collection because A, it's adorable. B, it's ghosts. C, I can throw down and read this anytime. And I really like having decks that I can throw down and read. This is the same with my Ganeshian Village. I don't have to think with that one. I know if I want to use it, I'll be able to. So I like that. So I was using this for my daily pulls. And I was putting once I pulled it, I was looking in my charm cast and putting it in my necklace, as I always do and have done since the day I got the charm cast. So that did work and that did happen. And then I was doing the evening reading, which I mentioned with the Shadowscapes. Let's show you here. So, oh, I love this. This is one of my favorite pages I did. So I was using the Boo Tarot for my evening reading at first, too. And I was just trying to do an energy obstacle advice. Like, what's the energy for tomorrow? What's the obstacle? What's the advice? And I actually really like doing that in the evening. So I might go back to that. But I was using the Shadowscapes for it. So here's one. And that lasted until about, let's see, about halfway through the month. And then I started using my Gentle Tarot for my weekly spread. For my weekly check-in. I am so in love with this deck, and I know I've talked about it, and if I have space in the cards, I will put the video of my unboxing of the Kickstarter. This is not the Kickstarter, this is the linen, but I did get the Kickstarter, and I do have the big guidebook, and that, oh, this, I'm still obsessed. I cannot stop. I'm so, like, I love using this deck to read for myself, because the guidebook, it's like it speaks right to me. So I started doing a week ahead spread with this deck. I'll flip through that in a second, where I would ask, how can I support my mental health, my spiritual, physical, emotional, in no particular order, and then my overall wellness. So every week I pull 5 cards, which I have done every week. Here's another one. And let's show you. And I use my little tarot stickers. Here's another one. Boo, boo, boo. Here's another one. And here's this week's. I did pull it. I did not finish interpreting it, but I did pull it. And I've determined for this week, it's just not... it just hasn't worked. I might look at it again, and fucking Hangman is stalking the shit out of me. But so I've been using the Gentle Tarot with the incredible guidebook to read about my week ahead. And I started to, even some days towards the end of the month when I really started having trouble and struggling. Like, I've been struggling, but the end of the month is when it was really getting bad. I started using the guidebook to read for my daily card. And it is, this guidebook is incredible. And there was, well, hold on. Before, I'm going to interrupt myself. And before I tell you that next significant day, because there was a really significant one, let me show you this. Because the other thing I did start doing with my weekly was I started pulling an herb or a beast from the bestiary, an animal, and an herb. And the artwork together isn't like as perfectly mwah as I like, although it goes quite well. But I found this to be very, very powerful. They hit the same kind of space, and the guidebooks of all of these are just so beautiful that I can't get enough of them. They're stunning. They're stunning. I adore Maya Toll's work. I adore Mari's work. I'm extremely excited. My Songs of the Grandmother Oracle is on its way. It's not here yet, but it is somewhere on its way. It's a bit delayed at the moment of filming. But this, so I started pulling I started pulling a herb and a animal to go with my weekly as well. And I really, really loved that. So I did end up using my illustrated herbiary and bestiary. And what I really learned was certain decks are for me to just slow down with. And these are some of them. Because these aren't decks that I intuitively read, at least not at this point. I'm sure it's possible that I could one day, but they're not currently. So what these decks are really great for is for me to read for myself and to pull out the big, beautiful guidebooks and really sink in and really slow down and ground in myself and ground in the, oh, I forgot. And ground in the messages. And that's what I really love to do with these things. That's what I really love to do with these, with these kinds of decks. So, and there was a moment with the Gentle Tarot that was absolutely profound. Let me see. What day was it? Okay. So there was a day where my daily card was the Eight of Swords. And then a client had the Eight of Swords as a card. And I was reading about the Eight of Swords in the guidebook. Of the Gentle Tarot. And it was just so powerful. This book is stunning. Not only is it visually gorgeous, the messages in it are stunning. Stay wild, my child. Nothing can hold you back. You are birthed from magic. You are forever magic. Your mind is powerful. Even the oldest of patterns can be retrained out. Choose new beginnings. Choose freedom. That's just a paragraph. It is stunning. So this was really the rock star. And I cannot wait to get my hands on the Songs of the Grandmothers with the same art with art by Mari. And I cannot wait to support Mari and whatever other new creations she's got coming. I cannot wait. Her work is so stunning. It's top notch. I did use the Change Oracle in a video. I used this to play around in a video, and that went pretty well. I enjoyed it. I'm still learning how I want to work with things like this, but I quite enjoyed working with it. I did do a video. It'll be linked up in the cards or maybe on the end screen for you to check out. But I did end up using the Change Oracle. The two other decks I used were not planned. And, well, okay. I can't lie. I did plan to use the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. I plan to use it for pulling a Samhain reading with my Witch's Wisdom. I haven't touched my Witch's Wisdom in a long time, actually. I think what has happened is because I have some of the decks of the Seasons of the Witch and not all of them, I haven't, like, I think that's made me go a bit strange. My brain is a weird place sometimes. But I was having a hard time one day, and so I sat down to commune with my goddess. So I did also use my Dreams of Gaia Tarot. I use that most every month. And I also ended up pulling this deck out. And I pulled these two cards. Spider is a sign of my goddess for me. And I have a black obsidian spider poison ring, which I love. And I always wear it on this finger, which is why I did that. And then Silence. I had a whole profound channeling experience with these things. I'm not fully ready to talk about that publicly because I don't know how to explain what it means for me because I don't know yet. I think it's a good hint towards things coming my way in like the new year. Oh, terrible glare. There we go. And then I used the Shimmering Veil Tarot. I used this. But when I had the kind of channeling experience, I ended up going on a walk, and part of my walk led me through a graveyard. And I had brought this deck with me, and there was a couple points throughout the walk where I stopped and I pulled some cards from this deck. And I'm still madly in love with this deck. Oh, look, I opened it to my Hangman. I'm so tired of a Hanged Man year. I'm ready for new energy, but apparently not ready enough. Anywho, so that is all the decks I've used. And now, just before we go, I want to talk a little bit about how my pulls went. So, as you can see in this footage, you can get a closer look at the tally yourself if you want to. This month, the very first pull I had in October was the World card. That was my daily pull. And the fact that I started the month with a major definitely rang true as the energy throughout the month. Because I pulled majors a lot. So this tally down the side includes all of my pulls, including this. I have this so that way I can see, like, did I have, so like, while this tally already contains this information, by having this, I can see I pulled majors every single week. I pull every single time I sat down to pull my week ahead, I pulled majors. And apparently 3 of those weeks, I'm just noticing, I pulled the fucking hanging one. My goddamn card. There was a lot of little moments where I did. There was a lot of little moments where it was like, pay attention. On October 9th, I pulled the 5 of Swords as my daily card, which is my monthly card. It was my monthly card for October, and it's the card of my Saturn deck, of my deck, and it's the decking card of my Saturn. So the first 10 degrees of Aquarius is 5 of Swords energy, and that's where my Saturn is. And I'm still in my Saturn return. So I pulled that. That was a sit up and pay attention moment. Week 3, I pulled both of the Lovers cards from the Gentle Tarot because I've shuffled them both in. And the Lovers is a Gemini card, and Gemini is where my Mars return stuff is going on. So that felt significant. There was a lot of moments where things just felt significant. And then, of course, there was me pulling the Moon card, and it was the new moon, and like in that reading I did when my brain was freaking out and I pulled the Moon card. I wrote that down too. And I did a video of that. It was quite the month. If you're curious about the tally, the final total is I pulled majors 30 times, different ones. The Lovers and the Magician the most. I pulled Cups 19 times. I pulled Wands or Swords 23 times, Pentacles 15 times, and Wands 23 times. It was definitely a major month. And a lot happened. And I'm tired, frankly. It's been a lot. So yeah, that was the month in my tarot practice. For November, I'm truly not sure. I do have my month in tarot set up for November here, and I have been marking my things. But my November journal and myself are in a weird squidgy place. So I'm not sure. I know I'm working with the concept of harm reduction for myself. And the only thing I really know is I want to work with this. Scorpio season feels like a really good time to me to still get to know, or start to get to know, my tarot vampires. So I would like to work with this and study it a bit and get to know it. So yeah, I don't have any specific plans, because right now, if I do specific plans, that will not help me in any kind of way. That would cause me harm, because I would be stressing out about trying to keep said specific plans, and that is not something I'm capable of doing right now. So to honor myself and reduce my harm to myself, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to go with the flow and see where I end up. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of stuff I end up talking to y'all about for the November month in tarot. I will write down the decks I end up using. And as it is November 2nd, I can tell you so far I am using the Gentle Tarot for daily pulls. We shall see if that changes. So let's write that down together. But that's it. That's my month in tarot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to do all the things. I realize I didn't do a full intro, like a proper intro, and I'm not going to do a proper goodbye because I'm doing the best I can. And right now that means things are a little bit weird, but I'm here. There's stuff in the description. There's all this. And anyways, I'm glad I got to do a video. So I'm going to stick to that. And I'm sending y'all lots of love. Bye.